Hello, Mr. Matt here, and I'm assuming you are now been assigned to learn Tinkercad, and assuming you have signed into Tinkercad, this is a screen that you'll probably end up seeing. And I just wanted to take a minute or two to walk you through this, how to get into the 3D space, and ultimately get started designing with our Tinkercad tool. You're either in one of my classes or you just happen to be watching one of these videos. Either way, I'm just going to walk you through the basics of the landing page here on the Autodesk Tinkercad software tool. Now here, first of all, you'll see your account. I have my little avatar, my little meeple there, Mr. Matt. And on the left side here, we have just a couple little options. We have home, we have classes. If you happen to be in one of my classes, you'll find that class information there. You'll have a list of your designs that you may be doing along the way, quick, easy way to get to those as well. And a couple other options here, maybe not as important for most people, but first thing we want to do is see if you're doing any of your 3D designs. If you have any type of designs, you will see those listed here in the middle. And you'll have the ability to go ahead and over here on the right and actually view additional designs as I have here. If you scroll down, there's a circuits option as well as a code blocks option. And we're probably not going to be touching too much of that in our class this year. But we're going to be focusing mainly on the 3D designs. And I know the first question you want to do is, hey, let's get into the tool. Let's start playing. Let's start learning. And the way you do that is to come on over here onto the right side where you see the plus create button. And go ahead and click on that. And it's going to give you an option to create one of three options: the 3D designs, the circuits, or the code blocks. And we're going to go ahead and create the 3D design. And once you click on that, it is going to go ahead and launch the Tinkercad tool. And magically, we are now in the workplane workspace where you see a whole arrangement of options and buttons. And we're going to walk through a couple of these before we actually get into any designing. This is kind of just an intro to the tool. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and drop a block on here just so that we can use a few of the features that are available. Now, the first thing we see on the left side is a lot of options to view our 3D design. It's going to become learning how to manipulate the workspace, how to turn the workspace, how to zoom in and zoom out. It's going to be very helpful as you begin to design your projects, whatever you're trying to design here in Tinkercad. Being able to manipulate the workplane and the workspace here will have to become almost intuitive as you work through that. One of the first things here up on the top left is you see this box. And what's really cool is you get to click on a number of these options. They highlight the corners, the sides, and the top, and the front. And if you click on any of those, it immediately changes the orientation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the front, and what you're going to see here, it's going to change the view of our option to be dead on, right in parallel with our work plane, and seeing the side or the front of our the block that I've dropped down here. Now, if you want to change that, go ahead and click on the corner. Let's see what happens. Oh, it turns it off to the right side. Let's start clicking on the corners and see how we spin around and view the various sides. So we can click the left side, maybe we can click the bottom. So now we're looking underneath, up through the table. But now you've gotten lost. Oh, how do I get back to where I was? They have a great home button there for you, the home view, and immediately snaps you back to that. Now you're going to see the entire work plane that's available to you, but sometimes that's a little bit too far. Like in this case, it's a little too far, and I want to zoom in there. Well, you can go ahead and fit all in view. So whatever you've designed, it will go ahead and fit into the view there. And as we do that, you see it zooms right up into our face, and we're able to look at that. Now you also have these plus and minus buttons. Plus means you can come even closer, get right onto that edge, or we can zoom out here as well. There's a mouse control that if you want to go ahead and have the scroll wheel will allow you to zoom in basically where your mouse is pointed. So you can see my mouse is pointed up on that top left. If I zoom out, change my mouse location, and zoom in, it will then zoom in on that mouse location there. You can go ahead and manually select that, go ahead and click the button. We can hit the perspective, kind of this flat view and perspective view. I find this not to be too helpful. It kind of gives kind of an awkward look to the object. I like to keep it typically with this kind of like third person view, being able to look through kind of like straight through, like almost like you're watching a TV. I prefer this view a lot more than, say, sort of this perspective view. It seems kind of awkward to me, so I try to stay away from that. Now, let's go ahead and hop back out. So you can see the whole work plane. And we have up on the top, we're going to have a bunch of options up here, which we'll cover in future videos, but you'll have these additional options on the top, which will allow you to control whatever is selected in the window. And then down here on the right side, we have a couple options around importing and exporting. Again, we'll talk about that later. Some selections to display things within the work plane. And then obviously we have all of our awesome little shapes options here. You have the ability to collapse and open up the window so you can have a better view if you tend to be working on a smaller screen like a laptop or even on a mobile device. Go ahead and click that out. You'll see that little arrow, be able to hide and collapse the screen. Continuing to rotate around, we have a couple options on the top right as well that pertain to your account. Now up in the very, very top, we see a name, Grand Bamboul. This is kind of fun. The Tinkercad kind of gives you a default name for your project anytime you create something new. But if you want to rename that, you come on up here, you just click on it, give you the option. We'll call this the block project. Very original. We'll call that the block 1 project. And all you got to do is click outside of that, and now the project has been renamed. And in your designs, in your home window, it will also reflect that name change, and you'll be able to come back to it. And then down here in the bottom right, we have a couple options that affect how we work within the work plane. We have settings here that we can click on. We'll talk about those later. And we can have the snap grid option, which allows you to come up and down. It's kind of defaulted at 1 millimeter. And again, we'll talk about that later, but I just wanted to kind of show you the overall view of the work plane tool. Now, we talked about the scroll wheel, allowing us to come in and out. That is a really nice option, us to kind of sneak in there and take a quicker view. But sometimes we want to just move the work plane around. You take the same scroll wheel button that we use to zoom in and out, and instead of scrolling that button, if we press it down, it's almost like we grabbed and we hold it down, we grab and move it to the side, keep holding that button down, grab it and move to the right. Again, that is the scroll wheel button, push down. It allows us to kind of grab the whole work plane and move it side to side. That is really helpful if we want to kind of look to the side, if we want to look to the other side, we want to bring it up, or we want to bring it down, or kind of have it dance around on our screen. Really fun. Now, if we want to rotate the work plane, that is the right mouse button, not the left mouse button, the right mouse button. Typically with the middle finger, we'll go ahead and click and hold. And if we move our mouse around, it allows us to rotate around our block. And we can go to the right, and again, holding that button down, right and left, it allows us to wrap around and take a look. So we can imagine grabbing, rotating, grabbing, and rotating, and you can see how we've come around. Now you can go up or down, allows you to pivot up or down with the right mouse click. Let's keep going around that object. I'll drag and move them over a little. Right mouse click to turn and rotate around. Middle mouse click goes over. Right mouse click, spin around. And I really encourage you to kind of play with this, because I think it has to become intuitive as you move in and out. You manipulate, you grab the work plane, spin it around. This is going to allow you to work faster. So really playing around with these options to move your screen around. Now my block doesn't need to be here in order to do these options. So here I am doing the exact same controls with no block on the screen. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can center scroll wheel mouse click and move my work plane around. I can right mouse click and spin it around. And if I get lost, I just go home. Or if I go here to the object view, I can go ahead and put that block right back in the middle. Go ahead and zoom in there, and we keep spinning around. So hopefully this has helped you kind of get in your first touch of what the tool is and get playing with the movements of the work plane, because it's going to be super important as we begin to drop more and more shapes into our Tinkercad design and allow us to be able to manipulate and twist and turn and get a real quick, sharp view of what we're trying to design. These basic controls are going to be the keystone of all your activities that we do going forward.